So it's the idea that learning and growing requires that you do or start doing or increase doing thinking for yourself. So for me, what I'm hoping here is, I don't care what you think. I'm not trying to convince you to think in any certain way. My main goal is to get you to think. Whatever you come up with, fair enough. I'm pretty easy on that. But I want you to think. So a lot of times what I'm saying and bringing up are points of discussion, so that you just have to think about it. Well, I've always thought this my whole life. I've never heard anything different. Well, guess what? When you get up and grow up and go out in the big bad world, there's a lot of different ideas coming at you. Tons of them. Gazillions of them. Especially if you go off to university if you don't go to a Christian school, if you go to a secular university, and you're not ready for it, you're this naive little person walking in going, oh, this is good. You're gonna get eaten alive. Okay? You're gonna probably be challenged, if not destroyed, a little bit of belief that you think you have. So, start thinking early. Here we go. Start pondering, thinking, and trying to come up with the best answer that you can, given the data, the information that you have. And so, part of what I'm trying to do this week is just get you to think outside the box. Maybe there's other things, other alternative thoughts, other alternative ideas. And at the end of the day, you might consider them all and say, no, I'll stick with the one I got. That's great, cool. At least you've thought about it, okay? So that's my goal, just to get you to think. And to expose you maybe to some things that might be new and might be a little bit radical. But as long as you're open to the idea of thinking outside of your comfort zone, let's put it that way, then we're good. At least I'm good. I'm good. The other thing just as an aside, is I really want to encourage you. See, being informed is one of the most powerful things you can do. Okay? It doesn't do you much good to be naive. That doesn't serve you very well. And the best way to be informed. Now I know this. The technological age is here and everything's online and blah blah blah. But I really encourage you to read. Inform yourself. Be informed. Push it hard. Read outside your box. Again, read outside your comfort zone. Read stuff that you don't naturally read, or read things that expand your vocabulary or expand your understanding. That's why David and I, we're both big Winston Churchill fans. And Churchill, as I mentioned, he had a vocabulary that was it was just unbelievable. And I had to look up, like I said, my little dictionary, and I probably had to look up maybe 2 or 3 words a page, because his vocabulary was just so extensive. But what I ended up doing is, guess what? Learned a bunch of different vocabulary words that help you express yourself. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit, is about, as an adult, you need to learn to speak well. Whether you're a natural speaker or not, you need to be able to formulate your thoughts and present them verbally in a well thought out way. And that takes practice. And all these things I'm talking about don't happen overnight. Okay, it's a process. It's a journey. You start little steps at a time. Be pretty forgiving to yourself in the sense that that it's not going to all come quickly or naturally for some people. But yet keep at it. Keep doing it, and that's part of what causes you then to grow into maturity, so at the end of the day you will be perfect. So with that said, we're gonna just circle back to our temperament thing, the ocean big 5. And how many of you did it? Great,
I'm finishing.
thank you very much. Yeah. So, did it, now you've already, many of you have already said you already had sort of some kind of personality tests and things like that. Was there anything new, anything that was a little surprising, or, I don't know, maybe you hadn't anticipated, or you didn't know that was something you were, now were you also able to take neuro language? Because okay, so there's a number of different languages, okay. So, just general response, what do you think about it? Helpful? Yes, and
It
Astrid.
was pretty accurate.
So,
Pretty accurate, so it's pretty
Yeah.
accurate, described you pretty well,
Yeah.
okay.
For me.
Anybody else?
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, there were a couple things that I was like, but for the most part, I thought it was pretty accurate.
Okay, good. Joshua, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, and again, the reason now there's a number of these you can do. So there's like the Enneagram, I don't know if everybody's heard of the Enneagram. Okay. That's a pretty good one, except it came out of Persia, like, I don't know, 200 years before Christ. It's an old one, and it's pretty accurate, I think. My wife loves it, but it's not particularly scientific. It's a little bit like Galen, it was an observation, and he puts in categories, and it's helpful. But the ocean one is really quite technical. It's based on a lot of scientific research, and so it can be pretty accurate if it's used properly. So and the other thing too is, obviously nobody is 100% any one of these. We're made up. We've all got a little bit of this. We might be high, for example, in openness. Or it's on a continuum. So you might be a little bit high here, medium here, lower here, and off the charts down there. But the idea is to give you an idea of who you are. Because that's, one of the most difficult questions to answer is, who are you? Who are you? I said, well, my name is Charles. Okay. Okay, Charles, that's your name, but who are you? Well, I'm a male. In the postmodern terms, we'll have to say, we think he's a male, but he's a male. And I'm from Colorado. So, okay, that just tells me, what you are and where you're from. Who are you? Well, and a lot of times we don't know. We're just figuring it out, especially at your age. There's a lot of stuff you really don't know about yourself. And so self-discovery is part of the maturing process. And figuring out what your personality, what your temperament is, helps you to understand why do you like to do certain things. Right? The other day we talked about, we had one, write down, what do you like to do? What are you good at? And that's oftentimes an indication of where in your life you might end up. So if you really like science, it might, and that's fun for you, and you enjoy it, and you like it, you might say to yourself, okay, that's something that I might want to pursue. Or if you find out you don't like people, probably being a doctor or a psychologist would not be a good line of work for you. Maybe you need to go work as a forest ranger or something like that out in the mountains where it's just you and the mountains and the animals. So these things are pretty predictive in terms of what you might be good at, what you like to do. Oftentimes what you like to do is something that you're good at, right? If you like to do it, you do it more. And have you heard of the 100-hour rule? Some of you have. If you do something in a year, and you put 100 hours in a year, which is 18 minutes a day, and if you do it consistently, you will end up in being in the top 1% of whatever it is you were practicing or doing. So for example, if you want to be a chess player, and you practice 18 minutes a day, every day for a year, roughly 100 hours, then you will be in the upper 1% of chess players in the world. Now, I don't know, 'cause that's the rule, as it were. So let's say you're not in the top 1%, maybe in the top 2%. But the idea is, how much better will you be if you discipline yourself to do something for 18 minutes a day, every day? You will eventually be really, really, really good at it. So the question is, how disciplined do you want to be? Well, part of that comes in this other of how conscientious are you? So a lot of people, how many people were high in openness? Pretty high in openness. Okay. Oh, wow. Good. Okay, so with openness, you're creative, you're insightful, you like to think outside of the box, you're curious, original, adventurous, risk-taking, you like new stuff, you don't mind change, you're willing to engage something that you're not particularly familiar with, you like to push the limits, living out on the edge, that sort of thing. And that is a huge advantage in some ways, because it oftentimes leads you into, say, fields of let's say not necessarily occupation, but it leads you into areas where you can use your creative approach. You probably don't want to work, you probably don't want to work in an office where everything is routine and it's day after day, the same thing over and over again, because you get super bored. So you'll want to do something that challenges you. You want to do something that is new, that's kind of visionary, and out there on the edge, you can move forward without necessarily knowing where you're going and what you're doing. So that's helpful. Now, if you're low in openness, then you usually don't like change, okay? You like predictability. You like to be able to come in and sit down at your desk or whatever it is, and do the work, and know it's there, and figure it out, and have a routine, and you do it day after, and you like that. That's cool. We need people like that. By the way, there's no good or bad of these temperaments. There's nothing. They're all good, or they can all be healthy. That's the way they'll. If we're off the other charts the other way, then those are areas we need to work on. So, conscientiousness, diligent, ambitious, disciplined, reliable, plan ahead, organized. So if those are your attributes, and you like that kind of stuff, I think Joshua's got the organized part down. Yeah, I love it. This notebook is like the most organized notebook I think I've seen in my life. But anyway, if you like that, then you're probably going to excel in things that require systems and detail and repetition, and so something like an accountant, or working with numbers, or working in systems so that you know where your place is, and you love that. It just gives you great security. Now, obviously, if you're low in that, then you're going to resist change. Okay, if you're high in that, you don't like change. You don't like new stuff. You like things to be in their place, in order. And then the extrovert. Now, the extrovert normally is seen as somebody who's outgoing, energetic, confident, talkative, but that's not necessarily the best description. Here's the difference between an extrovert and an introvert. If you are at a party, for example, my wife and I are totally opposites. I am a really strong introvert. My wife is an extrovert. So we go to a party. Now I can carry on a conversation and I can interact and blah, 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 blah. And so can she. But when we're going home, I am exhausted. Okay? And she is energized. She's going, oh, that was just so much fun, And I'm going, oh my God, I'm glad that's over, And so that's the main thing. Now, again, introverts and extroverts, there's good, there's healthy bits of that, and there's not so healthy bits. So if you're an introvert, oftentimes you like to withdraw, pull away, and isolate yourself. And that's okay to a point, but then you need to be careful that you don't withdraw so far, then you cut yourself off, okay? And extroverts are the same thing. Oftentimes they burn out. You know, they don't know, they just so thrive on activity and engagement with other people that sometimes they just burn out. Because that doesn't, you know, you can't sustain that forever. So introversion, extrovert, that's something you just have to live with. And my wife doesn't understand me very well because she doesn't understand why. For example, I'd like to go on these long hikes by myself. And, you know, do a 800-mile hike, or what's that, about 1,200 kilometers in the mountains, all by myself. And I'm loving it. That's just like the best thing ever, you know. So, if you marry or, you know, somebody that's the opposite, you need to give them some room to be who they are, because they're not going to, you know, you don't necessarily understand them. Oftentimes you just have to kind of put up with them. Anyway, agreeableness. Now, this has to do with people who have natural compassion. They're kind towards people. They're caring. They're loving. They're nurturing. They're they have a lot of empathy. They feel people's pain. They're concerned about the well-being of others. And, you know, I mean, if you've got that part of your temperament, then there's all kinds of wonderful places you can express that, whether it's in the medical field, in nursing, and therapy, psychology, you know, or pastoral care, lots and lots of ways that you can express that. Now,